Jurgis Ostasius.
Ostasius.
Yes. Yeah, I came from Lithuania. That's my first trip to St. Petersburg after 30 years. So I'm really happy being here. Okay, let's begin. First of all, I would like to say that I used Google Translate to see what doklad means in English, and it translated as a report. So I want to warn you that it's not a report that I'm gonna talk about. It's more of a story that I would like to share with you, so that you could at least try to see things the way I saw them when I experienced the story that I'm gonna tell you. So the topic of today is what you should know about systems thinking to succeed in agile projects. I remember for the last decade or so, in many project management conferences, there were discussions whether agile or standard project management approach was better. You could see all and witness the rises of various agile methodologies, including Scrum, Kanban, and many others. Even today in this conference, I've heard several topics about whether and which of these methodologies is better. It seems that as time goes by, more and more IT companies understand that yes, there is something in Agile, and more product development companies start using various of methodologies. In my example, I work more than 10 years with Scrum. But one thing that I've noticed is, although many new practices arose, although there are lots of trainings, lots of conferences where they teach new ways to approach a project, one thing hasn't changed, and it's the way people think. So, simply put it, people started using new principles, new practices, but the way they think didn't change at all. And today I would like to offer you to see the Agile and particularly Scrum in the systems thinking kind of environment. I would like to tell my story about a project that I had some time ago. So it all began with me assigned as a project manager slash Scrum Master to a typical Scrum project. When I joined the project, it was already started. We were somewhere in 5th sprint. Moreover, the day I was assigned to this project was the day when the client came to our company, and we had a demo session. We had to show them what we've been working on for the past sprint. So it was a big day for our company. It was a big day for the team. And needless to say, we totally screwed up with the demo. The way it all went was instead of showing the graphics that we were planning to show, the working images, we ended up with our senior developer showing a black screen with some code lines and explaining to the client that, yeah, we just need some more fixes, and in the result, in a couple of days, we would see the result that you're looking for. Needless to say, it was a really big shock for everybody. The client almost left the project, but the good thing was that it was only the 5th sprint, and it is well-known fact that if you fail, you better fail fast. Meaning that we still had around 20 sprints ahead of us, and we had time to improve our performance. So what we did, we started analyzing what went wrong. We began by asking what was the goal of the project. So the goal of the project was to decrease the time is spent by sales managers to fill in the quotation form for the customer. It was our task to develop such a system. Next thing we started analyzing all sorts of metrics, and one of the slides that caught our attention was this velocity slide. Colleagues before me also showed very similar graphs, and from here we can see a really common situation where we have 4 previous sprints, completed sprints, and we can see some sort of trending when the feature velocity is decreasing and the defects level is increasing. So this particular slide caught our attention for 2 main reasons. One was, as a colleague said, clients usually love graphics and numbers. And velocities, seeing the velocity of the project of each sprint is one of the key metrics that by which a client is measuring the performance of the team. Are we going on the right track? Are we going to reach the goal that we've set at the beginning of the project? Another thing that caught our attention was that it wasn't the first time that we were not the first company that faced this problem. We remembered that there was a really great article in LESS Framework website where the principles of systems thinking was described. You can simply Google it and you will find a wonderful article where they approach a very similar problem to ours. So that was a good sign for us because we had an opportunity to try what was once a theoretical part in practice. What we got was the following. So in our situation, everything began with a goal. Apart from setting a goal by the team and the product owner in the beginning of each sprint, parallelly, there's also one hidden goal, which is often set by the management of the company. The management wants to see a certain pace on which the project is executed. And usually they don't tell this to the client, but the team and Scrum Masters knows it. So the first thing we wrote down as the goal that and the place that we want to look at is the goal that was set. Now, when you set a goal, it automatically generates a pressure to act, a pressure to complete this goal. If a goal doesn't give you any pressure, that probably means that you are absolutely not related with this goal. Here I am using the causal loop diagram. It means, well, to put it in the simple words, it means to show the causal relationship between variables. So in this case, it means that the higher the goal, the bigger the pressure, this small arrow, okay? Now, on whose shoulders does this pressure falls? First of all, it falls on the shoulders of the project manager. So project manager is the one at the end of the day who is responsible for the success of the whole project. If the project succeeds, usually it's because of the great performance of the team. If the project fails, usually the first person to blame is the one who was managing this project. Okay, so we started analyzing and seeing, okay, what we've been doing for the past 4 sprints, why we came to the situation that we are right now. And it occurs that what does the project manager do? He tries to influence the developers. He tries to influence the developers by, well, basically 2 main things. It's by trying to bribe them. For example, a project manager or a scrum master could say that, okay, if we complete this sprint with a certain amount of bugs, then you all gonna get free pizza. Or with threats. For example, if we fail the next sprint, there won't be any bonuses and so on and so forth. So it depends on the situation, but the model itself works something like this. Now, so we see everything begins from the goal, right? The higher the goal, the bigger the pressure. The bigger the pressure, the more actions are made with the developers. What do developers do? Well, developers becomes wizards in such situations, meaning that they started creating this magical code. By magic code, I mean that they put more hard code in it, they skip some testing. All they want to do is pleasure the one who set this goal for them, who applied the pressure to them. So you see, the bigger the pressure for the developers, the more of magic code they create. So what does magic code do? In short term, it increases feature velocity. Meaning, for example, if we have 1 week left for the end of the sprint, you start pressuring developers. They start creating new features, and as a result, you get a new feature that you can show to the customer. And it seems that everybody is happy. The developer completed his task, the Scrum Master or the project manager achieved his goals, and the client got the result that he wanted. But it usually is a very short-term result, right? Because the more magic code appears in the system, the more defects there are, right? More magic code, more bugs. Now, the number of feature velocity and the number of features are also linked, meaning that the more code you have, obviously you will have more defects, and vice versa. It means that the more bugs you have, the more time developers spend on fixing these bugs, and the less time they have to develop the code itself. The third part that this magic code's influence is the percentage on a whole system of so-called good code, right? The good quality code. So what we found out after the first analysis of our past 4 sprints was that, we have the part where we have these 3 variables, right, which reflected in our previous chart where we were measuring the total velocity of the sprint. But that was not all. In our case, what do project managers do when they have a goal to reach and they see that they are under the schedule? One of the quick fixes of the problem is to get more resources, meaning that the well-known idea that 9 women could give birth to a child in 1 month, right? So by this idea, we had the very similar situation that in our particular case, we simply didn't have a Java developer at the moment, and we thought, well, we have a good .NET developer. Why don't we assign him to some tasks? Maybe he's a good developer, maybe he will cope with it, and maybe we'll get the result that we want. It resulted in the, obvious result that the percentage of good quality decreased, right? The lower skills for the developer, the lower percentage of the good quality code. It also is obvious that the .NET developer will create more bugs in developing on Java. And in time, it also decreases the feature velocity because when you have to merge the code together, the rest of the team takes too much time to merge everything together, and it results in a lower feature velocity. So at the end, we had such a system where we saw that our initial target to analyze these three variables came from the system that we had. Now we tried to go a little deeper and understand why we have such system and such causes in the first place. And as a result for that, were two main ideas that lies beneath them. One is the idea that I've just told, that the more the better, meaning that if you assign more developers, they will create more code, right? So that was the approach of the management for the first 4 sprints. The second idea was, we can't see here, but it says push to succeed. We have this idea in our heads that if we set a goal and we push hard enough, sooner or later we will achieve this goal. It doesn't matter if it's a brick wall, we can push hard enough to go through it. Now, we asked ourselves that, yes, these were the ideas that generated this causal diagram, which resulted in the velocity that we had, which caused us to fail the project. So we tried to think, how can we change it? Well, I believe first thing is pretty obvious. We have to get rid of low quality developers. It's always hard thing to do to fire someone or to reassign someone in the middle of the project, because you risk to lose it all, especially when you don't have whom to change it with. But this is one of the things that we saw that we can't continue working like that, because if we failed on the 5th sprint, that means that looking into the future, it will definitely cause us the failure of the whole project. Another thing, and to my mind is one of the fundamental mental models that we have, is that this push to succeed comes from our background, from our environment. We are always used to see the client as the one who is higher than us, meaning that like in the previous presentation said, that what we want to do is always to pleasure the client. This is the key. He gives us money, he gives us opportunity to work, and whatever we do, we have to pleasure him. From that means that he sets us a goal. That means that we have to develop something to achieve this goal, right? And from that, the pressure from top goes to bottom. You can see it everywhere, from the political environment to the hierarchy in the organization to the relationship with the clients and so on. There's always someone ahead of you, and he's pushing you to act the way he wants, or at least the way you think that he wants you to act. So we decided to change it and to risk it. For that, we changed these two mental models into the following. First one was the better, meaning that if we want to achieve something, we have to work with the best. And the second one was work with the client, not for the client. Now, here I want to come back with the goal of the whole project that I said it at the beginning of the presentation. So just to remember, and it's very important, the goal of the whole project was to develop a system which could help to reduce a time the salesman spends on creating a quotation. Meaning that what we wanted to do is decrease the 15 minutes that the salesman sent on filling in the quotation form to, for example, 3 minutes. That was our goal. Our goal was not to create a system with a list of features in it and so on. So from that, we started thinking, okay, so that means that we have to start working together with the client, and client wants to work with us for him to solve his problem. And it's not the way that he envisions some sort of a system, and he doesn't know simply how to do it, and he needs some hands to create it. So we changed these two things. Now, and we tried it and looked how it worked in the next and upcoming sprints. So what we had, what followed was the following. So first of all, we were missing a key Java developer for about a month or 2 sprints. So for 2 sprints, we didn't do anything in the area that we needed this developer. We were trying to find the best one we can, simply risking the whole project, but simply with the idea that the better is the better. Luckily, we found one. Yes, he was expensive. Yes, we had to attract him. Yes, he had to work double shifts. But we knew that he is qualified for the job that we are assigning him for. So it obviously resulted in a better percentage of good quality code. It resulted in less defects, and at the end, the rise of the feature velocity started to increase. Next thing was we started a discussion together with the team, and by simply asking them, so what helps you to create a better quality code, and what helps you decrease the number of bugs that you do? There are lots of methodologies, very expensive, very hard to learn, but if you ask a specific person, for him, what helps you to create a better code, they will think. Sometimes it will take 5 minutes, but they will answer you that, for example, if I am giving the task that I know that I know what to do, I am capable of doing it, I will simply do it. It's the only problem is to tell me exactly what to do. Okay, so that was the idea. What we started was a new practice. So for each and every task in the project, we started acquiring the whole team. Sometimes even asking some members of other teams, like architects, to come and help us with a specific task, so that the developer, when he starts developing it, he knew exactly what to do. We knew that he is a high-skilled developer. We knew that he is capable of doing it. What we did, we simply started spending more and more time on discussing the tasks that he will do. Looking at the task from the different perspective, looking how will this task be related to other aspects of the system, and so on and so on. Another thing was that we involved the client. Now, I want to remind you that after we set our mindset that we work with the client, meaning why not use him as a resource for us? Meaning, why don't we assign him to help us with certain tasks? And we started inviting him to all the Scrum meetings. From daily Scrum, each morning he had to join us for the 5-minute stand-ups. He was involved in all the planning, reviews, and so on and so on. In all the activities that we have at joint meetings, we invited a client. We simply agreed with him and tried to persuade him that if you want to achieve your goal, you have to help us and we have to start working together. The third part was that not only we involved the client to spend the time with us, we also involved the person, the end user, who will be using this system. I know it's really hard to do, and it doesn't work in all cases, and I don't want to set this example as things that you should start doing. I was just want to show you the way we were thinking, okay? So how it all resulted. After some, I believe there's 15 sprints, we had the same velocity chart, and it looked something like this. But it doesn't really bother us. You can say that we broke all the rules of Scrum, right? We did everything wrong by the book of Scrum. But at the end of the day, the client was satisfied. He said that we were one of the most transparent companies that he ever worked with. We achieved the goal that he set in the first place, meaning that we decreased the number the sales manager spends on creating this quotation. Moreover, there was a question four presentations ago. He said that, okay, we have a list in backlog tasks to do, but okay, we are finished, we are done. You still have some money left, some time left, but you can stop working. We achieved the goal that we wanted. You can have the money and, I don't know, create a party for yourself. So to sum it up, how did we do that? So we started analyzing from the bottom, right? We started analyzing from the performance perspective. We started to see how our team was performing. After that, we started seeing what caused this performance, okay? So we tried to see what system, what structure lies beneath that. And the last thing was the management thinking. What mental models, how does the management see the world? Why this structure or these practices came up in the first place? And when we started making changes, it went from top to bottom. Now, the last tool that I would like to share with you is very simple. It's called Iceberg. It's one of the systems thinking tools that it's very simple to use and very simple to understand. You can't really see here clearly, but Iceberg, it's called Iceberg because you only see 10% of the whole iceberg, which is above the water. Okay, so basically it means that we see only what is happening. Here in all the reports, here what in доклады, да, all presented with all sorts of numbers, right? All sorts of problems. So this is the level that is seen. But if you start looking deeper on the first level underwater, you will see some sort of trends. Now, if to the event or to the problem, one thing that you can do is simply to react, meaning that you can say that it's good, that it's bad, we have to change something, and you simply react to the things that happened. Now, if you look a little bit deeper, you can start seeing some trends, meaning that maybe it's not one event that happened, maybe in the history there were several events, and maybe you could start seeing some trends. For example, this conference, the situation that we are right now, we can see that people are leaving by the end of the last presentation. It's normal. We don't have to react to that. We simply see the trend that if the conference ends later than it's that 6 o'clock, there will be less and less people, right? If we looked a little bit more deeper, we can see the structure. So returning to the trends, what we can do with the trends, we can anticipate that. We can anticipate that tomorrow on the same time we'll have the same situation. We can do some sort of prognosis, right? If we dug a little bit deeper, we find the underlying structure, meaning that it's not a coincidence that this is happening. Somebody had structured the program the way it is today. Right? Somebody arranged the whole agenda, right? And it works in a certain way. What we can do is simply try to see what structure lies beneath that and try to change it, redesign it. And the last and one of the deepest levels is the mental models. Mental models is the way people and specific person sees the world. Each and every one of us sees the world differently. From that, if somebody sees that we have to create a conference the certain way, right? He starts creating some sort of the structure for that. From that comes some patterns, right? And then the result, you have the event that is happening. It's that I'm speaking too long for now. Yeah, so that's all I would wanted to share with you. And if you still have time and have some questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Jurgis. And so we are a little bit running out of time, but you can still have a good chat here. And so thank you very much. So you can ask questions.